At exactly 2:13 a.m., her boyfriend sat down in the red chair and started singing in a little girl's voice. He had no memory of it, but the chair remembered. What happened in room 44 wasn't just a haunting, it was a warning. And if you think it can't happen to you, think again. Let's uncover the chilling truth behind Singapore's most silent ghost, right here on Uncle Hollow NX. When Jing-Yee stepped into the faded stairwell of Block 12, she told herself this would be the start of something new. At 25, she had finally left her family in Johor Bahru after years of tension, ready to begin a fresh life in Singapore with her boyfriend, Kai Sheng. Their new place wasn't much, just a cramped two-bedroom unit on the second floor of a 5-story walk-up apartment. The kind built decades ago, no elevator, yellowed tiles, and fluorescent lights that flickered more often than they stayed on. Most floors were empty, only the first and second had tenants. According to the landlord, levels 3 through 5 were under renovation. But the reality was stranger. All the upper doors were dusty, but locked tight, each with faded black numbers painted above the frame. One of them stood out, room 44. Every evening, Jing-Yee passed that dark hallway with its single flickering light, and every time she felt it, that prickly sensation at the base of her neck, as if someone was watching from the shadows above. Kai Sheng laughed it off. "Old buildings creak, ghosts don't pay rent," he joked. Still, something about that place didn't sit right. The silence upstairs wasn't peaceful, it was heavy, like a breath being held. Quick pause before the chills continue. Tell me in the comments where you're tuning in from. And don't forget to subscribe, because once we reach 1,000 subs, I'll unlock a brand new schedule. Multiple ghost stories every day. You don't want to miss it. One night, as Jing-Yee locked the gate behind her, she looked up toward the 4th floor. A hallway light buzzed and sputtered, then went completely dark. That was the first time she noticed the red chair sitting just inside the doorway of room 44. It was turned slightly toward her. It started with a whisper. Late one night, Jing-Yee was returning from the shared laundry racks behind the building. She was carrying a half-full basket when she saw the old woman again, her next-door neighbor who rarely spoke. The woman looked at her, eyes wide and strangely clear under the dim corridor light, and said softly, "Don't stay up too late. She prefers quiet nights." Jing-Yee froze. "Who?" she asked. But the woman just shook her head and closed her door with a quiet thud. She tried to forget it. Maybe the old lady was just confused. But things began to stack up. Every night around 2 a.m., Jing-Yee would hear soft rhythmic creaks coming from upstairs, 3 slow steps, then a pause, then 3 more. They didn't sound like renovation, they sounded like someone pacing. One evening, while folding clothes at the window, she looked up toward the 4th floor and saw something that made her breath catch. The door to room 44 was cracked open, just slightly, and inside, visible only for a second under the hallway's flickering light, the red chair moved. It spun slowly, just once, as if someone had stood up from it. Jing-Yee blinked. The chair was still. She told Kai Sheng. He smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "You've been watching too many horror movies." But the next night, the door to room 44 was wide open again. And this time, the chair was facing the hallway. She shut their front door, bolted it, and didn't say a word. But deep down, Jing-Yee felt something she hadn't felt since childhood. The creeping certainty that something was watching and waiting. The first time it happened, Jing-Yee thought Kai Sheng was just using the bathroom. It was 2:07 a.m. She heard the bedroom door creak and the sound of his footsteps padding into the hallway. Then, silence. 10 minutes passed. He didn't return. She got up, half asleep, and looked out. The front gate was unlatched. He was gone. Her heart pounding, she slipped on sandals and followed the stairs up. The building was dead quiet, the fluorescent lights above buzzing like distant insects. When she reached the 4th floor, she saw him. Kai Sheng was standing in front of room 44. The door was open again. He didn't turn around, didn't blink, just stared into the room like he was waiting for something. "Kai?" she whispered. No response. She stepped closer. His hand slowly rose and pushed the door wider. He stepped in, without hesitation, like he belonged there. Inside, the red chair was waiting, turned toward the door. Before she could stop him, he sat down. His spine went stiff. His arms hung limp. Then he started humming. A slow, childish tune, one she didn't recognize. Off-key, repetitive, like something a child might sing to themselves in the dark. She couldn't breathe. The room was ice cold. Her breath fogged in the air. "Kai Sheng," she hissed, "let's go." But his eyes were open and empty. She backed away, heart racing, unsure what to do. Run? Call someone? Pull him out? Then, without a word, the door to room 44 began to close on its own. She lunged forward and caught it just before it shut. Inside, Kai Sheng slowly turned his head toward her and smiled. Jing-Yee slammed her shoulder into the door. It didn't budge. Inside, Kai Sheng remained in the red chair, unmoving, still humming that eerie lullaby. Only now, the tune had words. "Good girls don't cry. Good girls don't die." His voice was higher than usual, off, like he was forcing himself into the pitch of a little girl. His head tilted slowly to one side, eyes locked on the empty desk in front of him. Then he started speaking in 2 voices. One was his, calm, flat, detached. The other, smaller, raspy, like a child whispering through a cracked door. Jing-Yee pounded harder. "Kai Sheng, get up!" Suddenly he laughed, a sharp, high giggle that didn't belong in an adult man's throat. Then he began to rock back and forth in the chair, still facing the desk, hands resting on his knees. Back and forth, back and forth. She fumbled for her phone. No signal. The room grew colder, like something inside was pulling all the warmth out. Then, Kai Sheng snapped his head toward her. His eyes, bloodshot, pupils shrunk to pinholes, and he smiled. "She likes it when you watch." Jing-Yee stumbled back, her legs weak. For the first time in years, she felt true fear, the kind that strips you of logic. She turned and bolted down the stairs, her breath catching in her throat. Behind her, the chair creaked with every rock. She didn't look back. Jing-Yee didn't stop running until she reached the ground floor. She banged on her neighbor's door, Mr. Go, a retired security guard who lived alone with his adult son. He opened with a scowl that melted the moment he saw her face. "Kai Sheng, he's in room 44, she gasped. "He's not himself." Mr. Go didn't hesitate. He grabbed a flashlight, called his son, and the 3 of them rushed back up the stairwell. By the time they reached the 4th floor, the air was freezing. The hallway lights flickered erratically, casting long, twitching shadows across the corridor. Room 44's door was wide open. Inside, Kai Shang still sat in the chair, but now he was whispering to the wall, his voice alternating between low and high tones. Mr. Go's son moved first, stepping cautiously into the room. The moment his foot crossed the threshold, the whispering stopped. Kai Shang's head snapped backward. He arched violently, then slumped forward, unconscious. The two men rushed in and lifted him out of the chair. His body was ice cold. His skin had a bluish tint, and his lips were slightly purple. Jing-Yee watched in horror as they carried him out, his arms hanging limp, eyes rolled back. As they exited, a loud click echoed from behind them. The door to room 44 had closed on its own. Mr. Go didn't speak until they were halfway down the stairs. "You should never have gone near that room. Not alone. Not at night." Jing-Yee looked down at her boyfriend's pale face. He was breathing, but whatever had touched him in that room hadn't fully let go. They laid Kai Shang on the couch, wrapped in a blanket. His breathing was shallow but steady. Mr. Go made tea. Silence hung in the air like smoke, thick, choking, and full of things unsaid. Finally, he spoke. "There was a girl," he said, eyes fixed on the steam rising from his cup. "Lived in that unit upstairs. Her name was Zhi-Shwen." Jing-Yee leaned in. "Single mother, always kept to herself. The girl was quiet, too quiet even for a child." He paused. "One day, no one saw either of them for almost a week. I knocked, no answer. Something felt off, so I called the police." He swallowed hard. "They found Zhi-Shwen in the room. She had tied a school tie around the ceiling fan and hanged herself, sitting in that red chair." Jing-Yee covered her mouth. "And the mother?" she asked. "Gone," he said. "Vanished. Never picked up her pay, never came back for her things." The room felt colder again. Mr. Go looked at her. "They never cleaned out the place. No one wanted to. Every time someone moved in, they'd leave within days. Some claimed to hear crying. Others saw shadows move. But always, they mentioned that chair." Jing-Yee felt something shift in her chest. Not just fear, but sadness. A child, alone, forgotten, still there. "Why didn't anyone tell us?" she whispered. "We tried," he said gently, "but you were happy, in love, and no one wants to spoil that." She thought about the humming, the way Kai Shang had rocked back and forth like a little girl trying to self-soothe. Zhi-Shwen hadn't just died in that room. She'd stayed.
The next morning, Jing-Yee couldn't sleep. Kai Shang had no memory of the night before, just a headache and an overwhelming exhaustion. He thought he'd just had a nightmare, but she knew better. While he rested, she climbed the stairs again, this time stopping at the old electrical cabinet halfway between the second and third floor. The panel had always been ajar, stuffed with old keys, rusted tools, and rolled-up paper. She had seen it before, but never paid attention. Inside, tucked behind a water-stained envelope, she found a folder. No labels, no dates, just aged, brittle documents held together by a red rubber band. She opened it. The first page was a police incident report, dated 8 years ago. Unexplained death, adolescent female, cause, hanging, time of death, 2:13 a.m. The next, a tenant complaint 3 years later. Heard crying from room 44. Male tenant was unresponsive to knocks. Found dead 2 days later. Time of death, 2:13 a.m. There were 3 cases in total, all from room 44, all at 2:13 in the morning, all marked undetermined cause. Jing-Yee's hands trembled. She flipped to the last page, a faded maintenance note scribbled in pencil. Chair won't stay turned toward wall, keeps rotating back toward door. She slammed the folder shut. Everything made sense now. The whispers, the song, the possession, the cold. Zhi-Shwen wasn't just a restless ghost, she was stuck, replaying the moment of her death night after night at the same time, hoping someone would see her, or worse, become her. And every person who entered that room alone became part of that cycle. Jing-Yee stood there for a long time, folder pressed to her chest, as the hallway light flickered overhead. There was no repairing this, only escaping it.
They packed in silence. By evening, boxes were stacked by the door. A moving van was scheduled for morning, but neither of them wanted to spend another night there. They decided to stay at a friend's place across town. As Jing-Yee locked up for the last time, she looked up. The fourth floor was pitch black. Even the hallway's flickering light, the one that always buzzed, was out. She turned to leave. Then she heard it. Row, row, row your boat gently down the scream. Not stream. Scream. The melody drifted softly down the stairwell, each word carrying a childlike lilt. She froze. Kai Sheng was already at the bottom of the steps, waving her down. But something made her look back. And there, at the far end of the fourth-floor balcony, stood a figure. A small girl in a wrinkled school uniform. Her long hair fell forward, but even in the dark, Jing-Yee could see her tilted head, the angle slightly off, like it had never been set right again. Zhi-Shwen! She didn't move, didn't blink. She just stood, staring, then slowly raised her hand, not to wave, but to point, straight at Jing-Yee. Their eyes locked. For a split second, Jing-Yee felt something pass between them. A sadness, a need, an echo of pain that didn't belong in the living world. Then the lights flickered back on, and the balcony was empty, gone. Jing-Yee blinked, breathing hard, then turned and rushed downstairs without looking back. Neither of them spoke in the taxi, but as the city lights passed outside the window, she whispered, "She doesn't want to hurt people." Kai Sheng looked at her, confused. "She just doesn't want to be alone."
2 weeks later, Jing-Yee was scrolling through her phone late at night, trying to distract herself from the silence of their new flat. Kai Sheng had been fine since they moved. No more nightmares, no more sleepwalking. He never asked about room 44 again. But she couldn't stop thinking about it. Out of habit, she typed a phrase into the search bar. Room 44, Ghost, Singapore. She expected nothing. Instead, she found a thread on a local ghost forum dated just 3 days prior. The post began, "Anyone else experienced something strange near a red chair in a 5-story flat? I used to live in Bedok. There was this abandoned unit, room 44. Jing-Yee's breath caught. The user described hearing a child's song at 2 a.m., seeing the chair move, feeling watched. He moved out after a week. The top comment chilled her to the bone. Same here. My cousin swore she saw a schoolgirl with a crooked head on the balcony. She hasn't talked since. Dozens of replies followed, some vague, some oddly specific, all eerily similar. Same room, same time, same song, same girl. Jing-Yee didn't post, didn't reply. She just sat there, watching the screen as the page refreshed with new comments. Whatever had happened in room 44 wasn't an isolated incident. It was spreading one memory at a time, One story, one forum post, one whispered tale on a bus ride. Zhi-Shwen hadn't moved on. She had simply found a new way to be remembered. And as long as people kept talking about her, as long as someone kept humming that lullaby at night, Room 44 would never truly be empty.
Some ghost stories are just that, stories. But others feel different. They stick with us, not because of the jump scares, but because of the silence, the forgotten child, the closed door no one wants to open. The story of Room 44 isn't about demons, possessions, or blood. It's about something more human – loneliness. Zhi-Shwen wasn't terrifying because she was evil. She was terrifying because she was left behind. Her death was quiet, her life even quieter, and that silence echoes louder than screams. The story reminds us of the people we pass by every day, the ones sitting alone at lunch, the ones who speak softly, the ones who disappear without anyone noticing. Maybe the scariest ghosts are not the ones in old buildings, but the ones we create through neglect. When we forget people, they don't always go away. Sometimes they wait. Stories like this ask a simple question. How many Room 44s exist in this world, waiting for someone to listen? Whether you believe in ghosts or not, Zhi-Shwen's presence leaves us with a haunting truth. The forgotten never forget. If this story chilled you to the bone, hit that like button, leave a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you never miss what's next. Here's what we want to know. Do you believe a spirit can trap a place in time? And if you found Room 44 in your building, would you open the door? Drop your answers below. We read every single one, because the next Room 44 might be closer than you think.